Hello and welcome back to Foos Entertainment, this time for my review of Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope. Well, I would have to say, I was ready to tear this movie apart and actually talk about how much I do not like this movie. And I said this film's actually a lot more exciting than I remember it being. But I said it's more exciting than I remember it, so I can't tear it apart nearly as much as I originally wanted to tear it apart. But I still am going to tear it apart. And everybody talks about how The Phantom Menace is the worst Star Wars movie. I disagree. I think that The Phantom Menace, like this movie, takes a little too much time explaining every little thing. But The Phantom Menace does it a lot less than this movie. I mean, quite literally, half of Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope, from 1977, is boring. Half of the movie, pretty much nothing happens. Except for, of course, the conclusion of Rogue One, a Star Wars story, at the beginning of the film. But, for the most part, half of this movie is boring. It's just storytelling. No excitement, no action, really not much of anything, just introducing characters. And of course, keep in mind that this is the first Star Wars movie to be released. Which means that no one knew anything about Star Wars, really, in terms of where it comes from. The novels, canon universe, all of that was unknown at the time because it didn't really exist at the time. Except for the novels, and now a lot of people did read them. Now, you've been asking the question, well, George Lucas, why not just make Star Wars Episode 1, 2, and 3 first, and then 4, 5, and 6 second? Well, it's pretty simple. And this right here is a big thing I have to bring up because people will keep going on and on and on about this. I'll make it very clear to you, in my own opinion, about why Episode 1, 2, and 3 were made after 4, 5, and 6. Episode 1, 2, and 3, we have technological civilization. We have the intergalactic government, known as the Republic. We have democracy in a republic working together in a united government. Everybody's living in peace and harmony, except for with the Trade Federation, which is more of a nuisance compared to the Empire in these movies. So, the galaxy is not in ruins, it's not destroyed. There hasn't been the Clone Wars, there hasn't been any of that. There hasn't been Civil War, nothing. Everything is actually pretty much okay, despite the conflict with the Trade Federation. So, you would expect it to look more advanced. Well, yeah. In 1999, throughout 2005, Hollywood had the technology to make a advanced alien in technological civilization of Star Wars in this element, and make it believable and make it look good. You can't really say that in 1977, now can you? There was no CGI in 1977. There was no computer graphics in 1977. So there's no way you could have made The Phantom Menace throughout Revenge of the Sith in 1977. It just wouldn't look right. Now, that said, it could have, and would have been very interesting to see how they would have tried to do that. But for whatever reasons, George Lucas decided to make 4, 5, and 6 first, and then 1, 2, and 3 later, because he knew that 4, 5, and 6 would be a hell of a lot easier to make than 1, 2, and 3. But keep in mind, though, people didn't know really that much about 1, 2, and 3 at this time, as well as Solo and Rogue One. So that's why, going into this movie, also recognized as the first film that produced, from that point of view, this film is boring for the first half of the movie. From someone who watched episode 1, 2, and 3, Solo and Rogue One, before watching this movie, it actually makes sense. But you just got through all 5 of these exciting, much more exciting and action-packed and more fast-paced movies. So you end up with this really slow on execution. It feels like forever for all the good stuff to actually happen in the movie. But with that said, I was pretty amazed that this film is more exciting than I remember it being. So I can't hate this movie anymore like I used to. But it still is my least favorite Star Wars movie in the franchise. So I defend the movie while explaining why I have issues with it. So it's a neutral opinion instead of a bad opinion or a good opinion. Now, premise of the film. This film takes place 1 minute after the events of Rogue One, a Star Wars story. And it brings us back to the the Skywalker story. So this is also pretty much a sequel to Revenge of the Sith in a lot of ways, being that it shows Luke Skywalker and Leia grown up, and shows the conclusion of Princess Leia being put into the royal family on Alderaan, and Luke being sent back to his father's family on Tatooine. And it shows the conclusion of that, and that kind of comes into our story. Luke meets up with a person that he knows as Ben Kenobi, which is actually Obi-Wan Kenobi, who had been living off of the land in Tatooine, keeping an eye on Luke Skywalker all these years. And with C-3PO and R2-D2 going on to Tatooine to try to find Obi-Wan Kenobi, they get sold to Luke Skywalker and his uncle and aunt. And he discovers a message and tries to look for Obi-Wan Kenobi. And he suspects Obi-Wan Kenobi and Ben Kenobi are the same person. Finds out that they are. And that the Empire is actually after C-3PO and R2-D2. And in pursuit of doing so, they kill Luke Skywalker's guardians, which is his aunt and uncle. Nothing left. He goes on a quest to find the princess. He sent the message to Obi-Wan Kenobi, Princess Leia. He, of course, he does not know at this point in time is his sister. That comes much later. And basically, they need a ship to travel amongst the galaxy, and that's when they run into Han Solo, who at this point had been working for Jabba the Hutt for a few years. And he has made up debts and needs to pay him off, and he's struggling to stay alive as well as being on a run from all these bandits that he owes money to and stuff. And that's when that's when they get to the Millennium Falcon and they escape from the Empire and go on a run from them too. They try to go to Alderaan to discover that it's destroyed and the Death Star is in its full potential. Now it's past this trial run. They get captured by the Death Star, and the ship gets impounded inside the space station. And they rescue the princess, and they escape. And we have a rematch with Darth Vader and Obi-Wan Kenobi, in which Obi-Wan Kenobi ascends to complete energy form with the Force, while being struck down by Darth Vader. They get to the Resistance base on another planet, but I forget the name of it. It's actually on the moon a moon orbiting around the planet, but they come with a plan of action to take out the Death Star with the flaw that Kanan and Ursa put into the Death Star's design. Luke, with the help of believing in the Force and being guided by the spirit of Obi-Wan Kenobi, does take out the Death Star. And of course, they get abducted is with a ceremony of honor and respect from the rebellion. And that's pretty much the end of the movie. Now, audio and video quality. I remember the audio of this movie actually being bad. Maybe my system wasn't calibrated correctly when I watched this the last time, or maybe because I was an alcoholic back then, I wasn't really paying much attention. Not to mention my hearing was all off because I work in a beef packing plant, and there was a time when I was almost deaf in these ears. I could hear, but yeah, I couldn't. That's been taken care of. I can hear perfectly, which is how I can review movies and tell you guys out there you watch what the audio quality is like, and you guys can believe it, everything I say. Let's go to the video. This one has more of a neutral type of look to it. But I'd say it does drive more towards warm than cool, but you can't really say it's a warm temperatured or a cold temperatured or neutral. It's kind of like everything. It's a small layer of grain, but it's put there intentionally on the movie to make it look dated, because they want to keep that sort of a little bit of a nostalgic thing about the first Star Wars movie ever produced. But with that said, this film is very, very clean, very, very clean. It's amazing how clean this movie is. The picture is pretty freaking good. I actually very impressed by the quality of the picture, but you can definitely tell that they tried to keep it looking a bit like a 1977 movie while making it look like a movie that's made today at the same time. And that's what makes it have this unique look. Audio. Wow. That's what I can say is wow. For a 1977 film, this movie packs a lot of sound. Now, I know that all the previous 5 films that I reviewed for Star Wars do, but they were made from 1999 throughout 2018. This was made in 1977, and this has some insanely good use of sound going through all 5 speakers. The surrounds are pretty good, very, very good. I'm very surprised by how much sound's in going around in the surround mixes. The stereo mixes are great. The center mix is clear, very high and clear, and that's something that's very rare for an old movie, is to have the mono mix being very loud, to where you can have a deep, almost like bass amplified effect of hearing their voices. Definitely like that. The subwoofer had a lot to offer too. I mean, this is pretty good. Actually, have a 1977 movie sound like this. So yeah, I say it has to do a lot with Lucasfilm's THX configurations that they put in with this special edition of Star Wars: A New Hope. This is a special edition one, not the original theatrical cut. So this was one that was kind of reintroduced in theaters in 1997, but this still is definitively a 1977 movie. Well, that's pretty much my views on Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope, from 1977. Have you seen the movie? I'd be very surprised if you haven't. Did you like the movie? Did you not like the movie? Do you have a mixed opinion about the movie like me? As always, subscribe, check back from time to time, and I will see you guys next time for my review of Star Wars Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back. Until then.